I'm going to get started. Welcome to the Stanford Neurodiversity Summit. For those of you that just joined, welcome. We'd like to let you know that all the sessions are recorded and transcribed. Please check our summit website periodically for the YouTube videos. All questions from the audience will be submitted through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. The moderators will try to cover as many questions as possible. This summer, our group at Stanford has organized a neurodiversity design thinking workshop for the community. This workshop is based on the neurodiversity design thinking class that I teach at Stanford. But unlike our class at Stanford, this workshop is truly multi-stakeholder activity. There are neurodiverse individuals, parents of neurodiverse individuals, employment specialists, mental health providers, and other stakeholders. About 90 people signed up for this 9-week, 7-session workshop with a goal of building something useful for neurodiversity, especially in terms of employment. From August to October, we have about 70 people that are actively participating in the workshop, and they were divided into 10 groups, and we invite them to compete for the opportunities to present in today's session. So in only 2 months, they came up with many very powerful person-centered ideas, and they built a prototype, and they even tested them. So Mark is going to introduce them one by one right before they start their presentation.
All right, yes. So the place went to Group 6. The project title is the Neurodiversity Inclusion Index, NDI. And the people are in the group is Carla Carrillo, Tiffany Payton-Jameson, Ray Kasalinski, Janet Miller, Lawrence Larry Rothman, Holly Trosh, Patricia Yotunda, Sarah Zank. Take it away, Group 6.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's delightful to be known as Group 6. Actually, we became a family as we did this. And we were thrilled, to say the least, to be voted #1 for our project, which is called the Neurodiversity Inclusion Index. And what I want to do is tell you a little bit about our group, tell you how we use the design shop methodology, give you the value proposition that we're able to develop so that it makes this worthwhile, and actually demonstrate via our website what the Neurodiversity Inclusion Index looks like. So may I have the next slide, please? Our group, as you can see, was composed of 7 people. I'm the guy on the left, and my co-presenter is the person next to me, Tiffany Jameson. And we had, as Lawrence just described, a multi-discipline, multi-background, very diverse background group. And what was really wonderful about it is that we all gelled as a family. We spent many evenings on Zoom validating the NDI, and we soon grew to become a very coherent group that were in total support of each other. May I have the next slide, please? So to look at what is the Neurodiversity Inclusion Index, basically it is an index driven by companies, employees, and candidates for jobs, the latter two being neurodivergent themselves. And the index serves 2 real functions. It allows candidates and employees to both describe their experience in the company and during the process of being hired or not, And it allows them to also provide an input to the index such that people can judge whether or not a company is neurodivergent friendly. What we believe this sets up is an internal competition among companies as well, because with a public rating and ranking system, very few companies are going to want to have a low NDII. Most will want to do very, very, very well. What makes us a bit unusual is that we are looking at this thing from a 360-degree angle. That is the employers, the employees, and the candidates. So we get a full picture of what's going on. May I have the next slide, please? Our key findings, no surprise, is that the NDII fills a gap that doesn't exist in the environment. There is no specific neurodiverse index that's around, much to our surprise. There are lots of inclusion indices, but none that focuses specifically on recruitment, hiring, and retention of people with neurodiversity. The thing that we discovered is that in addition, going forward, and we'll talk to you about our plan about going forward, NDII can be a standalone. We have our own website for it, or it could be included into another employment website. Next slide, please. So in order to validate what we were doing, we needed to construct a survey. And as you can see on both sides, we had a separate survey for employers and a separate survey for employees and candidates. And we built each of those surveys iteratively. That is, we kept speaking to people about, does this make sense? Does that make sense? And in the end, what happened is you can see the results. Employers, for the most part, were either lukewarm or absolutely thrilled with the idea of having this. And the key finding that I would like to point out is that many of them said they may change their hiring standards as a result. If you look on the other side of the ledger, in this case, employers and candidates uniformly love this idea. And the one thing that stands out more than anything else is they said it allows their voice to be heard, and that is so vitally important. Next slide, please. So we made extensive use of the methodology that was part of the Stanford Design Workshop. As Lawrence said, and thank you again, Lawrence, for including us, we're honored. The methodology is a 5-step process, as you can see in the hexagons. For us, the 2 major points that changed the course of what we were doing were in the emphasize step, the very first step, and in the ideate step, the 3rd step. In the emphasize step, by listening to the people in our group who are neurodivergent, they were able to tell us what their issues were with employment. In the ideate step, what was very, very clear is there wasn't an objective measurement index or standard for all 3 stakeholders, the employers, the candidates, and the employees. Now, if you look at the next slide, which talks about the starburst capability, next slide, please, which is a technique that the design workshop uses. We asked ourselves why, when, how, who, what, where, and what came out is that the real push here was the why, because we could influence inclusive hiring. We could influence sustainability of hiring. We could create a resource for job seekers, and we could create partnerships. So I want to go on to the next slide, please, which shows what we've learned. The critical elements for the NDII are that it's usable, that it continues to be innovative, and that it's flexible. All of those 3 things are absolutely necessary for it to be a success. Next, I want to show you what our business case is. And I'll point you to the blue box from one of the colleagues we've talked to inclusively, where they, and here is an enormous value proposition for business that many a time is overlooked. And I'll read this to you because it is so profound. Companies actively employing people with disabilities have an 89% higher retention rate, a 72% increase in employee productivity, and a 29% increase in profitability. I think nothing more has to be said than that, although there are many other capabilities that and reasons for a business and for employees and candidates to look at this. What I want to show you next is the research methodology we used. In the stakeholder surveys, we had to go through a 6 or 7 point process in each case, which was an iterative process. We created surveys, we identified employers and participants, we got their feedback, we refined the surveys, we compiled the results, and we created an index. And so when we got to that, the next step was to look at the world around us. Next slide, please. And either look at competitors or potential partners for this. And as you can see, we found 7 or 8 that were involved in indexes that were involved with inclusion. And in our opinion, there were 2 that stood out, and we are actively engaging those, as you can see on the right side of under the green light. What I'd like to introduce, whom I'd like to introduce is my colleague, Tiffany Jameson, who is going to actually show you what is in the index. Tiffany?
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. It was quite the experience putting everybody together. What I'd like to show you is some of the prototype we put together, and I actually just took bits and pieces of it because it's quite comprehensive. If you could push the space bar, please. Lawrence, if you could push the space bar. Thank you. So what I pulled out is, this is the prototype. And if you see on the bottom level, well-being, accommodation, mentorship, job coaching, and communication, these were all the areas that we felt our group of multi-stakeholders needed to be addressed that currently weren't addressed when looking at an employer. And these things were important for candidates that are neurodivergent or cognitively diverse. So some of the questions that the team felt were needed to ask is about accommodations during the interview process and during start of employment. Are they proactively asking you if you need these? Shadowing, is there a dedicated person or consultant to communicate, to kind of break down some of those initial barriers? And are you comfortable asking your supervisor for clarifications? So these were ideas of things that would help really focus the employer looking at what is important, and by individuals that are neurodivergent who would look at scoring companies from the interviewing and the hiring process, we would get a better feel for if they could be a good fit for a future employee. Next slide, please. So the visual we see, and I want to thank Inclusively for allowing us to mock up their current website. So when you're looking at a company and you want to potentially apply, what you could do is get these indexes here where it shows the NDII inclusion score. So what we see here is somebody who did not score very well on the inclusion score. If you can spacebar, please. Now we see somebody who did. So these would be good indicators, and there's a lot of science that still needs to go behind these to show that there are great companies that are inclusive and are aware of the neurodivergent needs in the workplace. Next slide. And lastly, when it comes to somebody who's looking for a career, looking for an opportunity, neurodivergence, we all know the spectrum is huge of their needs and their requirements to be successful in the workplace. So this would allow them to have additional functionality to feature jobs based on what they feel is important for them in the workplace. And that would allow them to be able to say, this company, XYZ, is the company that I know will have accommodations that are acceptable for me during the hiring process. I want to go and apply to them. Next slide. Go ahead, Larry.
So as you can see, this is a real live model. As Lauren said, in order to make the workshop live, we had to build a prototype, and we did. So where do we go from here? So today we're on the left side in a controlled environment. We are developing. The next step after that is a commercial environment. We need to look for a partner or a standalone capability. And then finally, to activate an aggregated scoring system for the Neurodiversity Index. And we will continue to survey businesses, survey candidates and employees, and incorporate their feedback to make the NDII better and better and better. Next slide, please, which is our conclusions. So first and foremost, all three stakeholder groups believe that there is a need for this, that it is welcome, and that will make a profound difference. The overall sentiment is positive. Partnership opportunities are there. And as you can see, our proof of concept is a major success. And I want to leave with the final slide, please. And this comes from Accenture. And this is a byproduct that we had not originally thought about, but is quite true. And I'll read this to you and then we'll take questions. Being honest about where you stand can be hard, yet crucial. First step towards becoming a more inclusive company, accountability and creating an environment of trust where employees feel comfortable self-identifying as having a disability are true measures of inclusion. I think that tells the full tale, and thank you very much. We are now open to questions.
Great job, Larry.
We have about 2 minutes for questions. We have one question here. Is the NDII being applied or will be outside the United States?
Go ahead. You go ahead, please.
Well, right now we need to get a platform for it to be, and we need to come up with how we can keep it independent and make sure it's objective. I think there are companies that are multinational, and I think the ratings would go, but we do need to factor in the different locations and how each location in many times is its own climate. And we want to make sure to address those topics. So if something's working great in Los Angeles, is it really the same in London? And how is that for a neurodivergent employee? So yes, but it is a little bit more complicated than just opening it up.
I don't think there are any more questions. Mark, are there any more questions?
1 second. I don't. How can we link with you to learn more?
You can go ahead on ndinclusion.org, and we have a subscription list where you can sign up, and we'll continue to give some updates about our progress. Hopefully we'll have some partners that pick up and we can get the ball rolling and make this more of a really big tool for the neurodivergent population to get what they need in the hiring process and in the employment process. So ndinclusion.org. Please sign up for our list and we'll keep you up to date.
Okay.
Thank you, Tiffany and Larry. It's really wonderful project that you have made tremendous progress within only a couple of months. So,
Thanks, Larry. It was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mark, would you like to introduce the next group?
Yes. So for the second place, we had a tie. And the second place for the first one will go to Group 5. The project title is Building Self-Advocacy Skills for Neurodiverse Employees. Group 5 consists of Jenny Hong, Ed Lam, Nukat Rashid, Wesley Strickland, Nancy Chan, and Ivan Ars. Take away, Group 5.
Thank you. My name is Wesley Strickland, and I'll start with presenting this. So we started thinking about this during this workshop, and we were trying to figure out how to build self-advocacy skills for neurodiverse individuals. And we thought it would be great to gamify an employee resource group for multiple reasons. Next slide, please. As we've kind of been talking about at this conference a lot already, is that we're at this tipping point moment where neurodiversity is kind of being brought from one framework to another in this diversity inclusion framework. And I think that's kind of all the statistics that are on the slide, everyone already knows, but this really could create a way to collect meaningful data while providing a way to build community and empower employees. Next slide. So the idea was with this gamified employee resource group to make sure that it's engaging, it's online digital gaming with rich content, customizable, anonymous avatars, dynamic missions and all that, scalable, so you can piggyback off of other programs that are already out there. A lot of companies already use gamification. Microsoft has some stuff, others do. And to allow real-time anonymized data sets for the neurodivergent community, which really doesn't exist right now. So that kind of helps to bring us into the current system we're in. And then inclusivity. And then I'm going to pass this off to my other colleague, Nikat.
Thanks, Wes. So why did we choose gamification? So there were a number of different reasons. We've highlighted 3 for you here. The first was learning to advocate for oneself is a journey for all people, and it can be challenging for neurodiverse individuals. And we felt that games can provide a safe space, which can challenge neurodiverse individuals at their pace, and they can identify the skill sets and the other areas that they want to build on, and they can play something that's very internal to them, and they can still play within a group and then decide to take some of that learning outside. So it's about linking their internal and external worlds. And we really want the idea of an employee resource group is that everybody who's part of that group brings their whole selves, and the organization learns more about them through the advocacy of that ERG. And so we wanted to provide that in a sort of different way for neurodiverse employees. Games are also very engaging, and they can build self-confidence. They provide a community for folks, and gamers span the breadth of ages, genders, diversities, and gaming is a very attractive and engaging proposition. With ERGs, you can sometimes end up in a very traditional sort of form in which you have events happening where people come together, or they do meetings, or potlucks or things like that. But in this case, it's a very different, very rich, engaging environment. And given that there's COVID going on with the pandemic, we feel it'll have a real reach and a real interest. And we've seen that, as Wes even said, and there's other stats showing that lots of gaming platforms have seen an exponential increase in their utility in this last few months. Next slide, please. So what would this game look like? So we have envisaged this game at a very high level as sort of a role-playing game with action adventure thrown in. So you would sign up for the game. You would first build your avatar. Now, in doing so, how would you build it? There's quizzes or other kinds of ways in which you could determine what that avatar looked like, felt like. We really want it to be a representation of the individual. At the same time, it could be fantastical, and it would be anonymized, or it could be made, people could share who they are. It's really dependent on the user and the player. There'll be a discovery process in the building of this avatar. Then they would go on missions, and the missions would be knowledge-based missions. So for example, if you have a neurotypical a colleague who's playing the game, and they really want to learn a lot more about neurodiversity, or so they can go and complete a bunch of modules or missions in that space. Folks would select and complete challenges. So we'll talk about in the next slide what those challenges would look like or could be within But you could select challenges based on their difficulty. You could identify which are more challenging for you. The more challenges you complete, the more rewards you get, the more tokens you earn. It could be a leaderboard. There would even be external challenges. For example, if it's, someone's having a harder time initiating a particular kind of meeting, if they're able to do that, it's something they come back and they can self-report and they'll earn more points, and there's more sort of positive motivation there. So over time, we hope that we will build a community of neurodiverse employees as well as their allies and mentors through this game. And that over time, we'll start to see data surfacing around what challenges are most common, what strengths do neurodiverse employees bring, what are some of the things that they have in common or things that people need to learn more about. And then as we surface that data can be used to drive organizational change. Next slide, please. So these are some of the high-level areas that we identified for the challenges or the missions within each game. So areas, missions within self-discovery, within self-regulation, executive functioning, social competence, employment performance, and advocacy. And we know that going through a process such as this can come with some internal challenges. Can bring us, facing ourselves can be difficult sometimes. Perhaps there's a player in there and an employee who has not been diagnosed yet, and they start to understand a little bit more about themselves through this process. So what we want to make sure is there's always access to mentors within the neurodiverse community in the organization, with allies and human resources or other individuals and organization departments that could offer professional support for people as they play this game. Next slide, please. So what was our logic model? So coming from a research and evaluation background, it was important for me and for our team also to identify what's our theory of change or a model around how this change is going to occur. So just looking at the neurodiverse employee at this point, our hypothesis was that engagement in this game will have a meaningful change in knowledge about neurodiversity, feelings of belonging, ability to advocate for themselves, and real life skill acquisition. And so we used a knowledge action behavior model in this case, and we identified some high-level measurement tools that we could use, including different kinds of testing or psychometric measurement, metrics around challenge completion, challenge level of difficulties, engagement metrics, how involved are folks in the game? Are they linking their internal external worlds? Are they playing solitary? Like getting a sense really of their engagement. We would have some self-report surveys and even journaling opportunities that would be private for the individual to sort of capture their feelings. And so we wanted to just outline that there was thinking and some ideas around measuring the engagement within this game and eventually some of the impacts. And the outcomes that we worked backwards from in this case was really around self-discovery and increased confidence and competence in certain areas. We also looked at in our research some of our what is our evidence that this game is going to actually work. So we saw that with the neurodiverse individuals, there's a really high rate of game affinity. A lot of people like to play games. Gamers span all diversities. Workplaces are increasingly gamifying their tasks, and Wes alluded to that. And we've identified, we won't go through it in detail now, but we identified some of the best practices that are in game design for folks who want to play serious games. So those are educational and edutainment games. And in our case, we really want to bring the science and the fun and all of that together through this ERG. I'll pass it over back to Wes.
Next slide, please. So keys to sustainability for something like this, it obviously has to be engaging, because if you're not going to get data or you're not going to get any kind of anything moving forward unless people want to play it. We would want to have some alignment with a corporate mission. You see a lot of the bigger corporations these days adding diversity as one of their core values. So I think that something like this would align there. Building internal and external partnerships and communicating progress and benefits. Next slide, please. And I think this is really my favorite slide is the impact slide. There's a lot of ways this could impact somebody. You've got employees that are building these traits, they're increasing productivity, they're feeling included, and they can be authentic. Increases mental health and learning development, career development. Human resources, they would get 100% on what we just saw, the NDII, well, presumably if they have the scores that they need, and a new talent pool, a new employee data, metrics such as hiring algorithms and inclusive recruitment practices, organizations, alignment with corporate mission, corporate social responsibility, innovation, stakeholder values, avoiding groupthink, because if we're hiring everyone that has the same data set, then we're not going to get the innovation from different data sets. And then the paradigm shift we've been talking about at this conference. And last slide, please. Next steps would be to continue to evaluate all the best practices as we're learning at the conference, set up multi-stakeholder advisory groups, undertake primary research, assemble neurodiverse team for product and software development, and explore potential interests from different groups such as innovation labs, trade groups, academic and corporate partnerships, and then to measure and course correct based on iterative engagement. Thank you, and thank you for everyone's help on this. And we'll take any questions now.
All right. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. And it was really cool to see from the beginning how your project grew and what it became. So there's a question. Is there a link to this game for those who are interested in it?
Well, we're in the process of conceptualizing the game, so no, there isn't a link yet. But we're very much in the early stages of conceptualizing it and starting to go towards, yeah, and then like we said in the next steps, bringing people on board to start to build it and create it. So hopefully, if this takes off, you'll see it.
All right. There's not any more questions. So we'll go to the next group. Thank you so much. So the next, thank you, group 5. So the next group, who got the second place went to group 10. And the project title is LinkedIn Employment Acceleration Program. The people in the group 10 are Shoshana Cohen, Stephanie Dignam, Isa Garcia, Chris Linham, Sylvia Owens, and Jareen Reich Murphy. Take away, group 10.
All right, good afternoon. We are the Leap into Work team, and our group, comprised of 3 parents of neurodivergent young adults, 1 professional and 1 who's both a parent and a professional, is excited to share our concept of how to improve employment opportunities for neurodivergent job seekers. When we started our brainstorming, we honed in on the need for our population of increasingly well-educated and trained neurodivergent adults to have access to the full range of competitive integrated employment opportunities, including the kind of professional jobs that might have been considered a reach in the past. What makes this moment even more powerful is that we see employers being more open than ever before to hiring and capitalizing on the power of neurodivergent minds in increased roles. Taking advantage of this moment in time means that neurodivergent job seekers looking for competitive jobs need to use competitive job seeking strategies, including resources like LinkedIn. After some discussion, our group decided to focus on LinkedIn just because of its tremendous power in the marketplace. Despite its power, when we looked at what it takes to create LinkedIn profiles, we realized that it may be intimidating for neurodivergent job seekers, and the complexity could be enough to keep many from even trying. To address this need, we created Leap into Work, which stands for LinkedIn Employment Acceleration Program. Leap into Work is a program to accelerate neurodivergent participation in LinkedIn as a career tool. The intention is to create a practical step-by-step guide to help neurodivergent job seekers create a profile and use their profile to get jobs. The strategies, language, and tools used are specifically targeted to the needs of neurodivergent job seekers. We'd like to offer you a guided tour of the website version of Leap into Work. Or maybe not. I think we lost Shoshana, did we? Ah, there we go.
I don't have audio. I don't have audio.
Which some people may use to reduce distractions that can cause anxiety at work. The text is accessible and reassuring, but not overly simplified, as we expect that users will be comfortable navigating the process in the site itself. When we started exploring the concept for Leap into Work, we found that while many neurodivergent job seekers know about LinkedIn, they find it overwhelming and become resistant to the process of creating a profile. We first established why it is important to care about the opportunity to showcase oneself to millions of prospective employers. We know that getting started with a profile can be complicated and confusing, so the site breaks the process into 12 manageable steps with tips and advice for doing them well. For users who need more, we provide an illustrated guide with detailed instructions. We also provide information about including a video resume as part of a profile. Finally, we are working to identify a set of volunteer coaches who can help Leap into Work users get started or provide advice if they get stuck. Let's take a look at a few of the steps. A big part of setting up a profile is knowing what to have on hand before starting. So we provide a list of what to have ready. For some people, this might include a parent or other support person. We also make it clear that the user can control what information appears on LinkedIn. We know that some may have anxiety about sharing personal data. Each step ends with a direct link to the next. Each step also contains simple instructions and easy access to guides and additional information. This page is a good example of universal design. It provides easy access in a highly visual format as it provides tips for selecting a good profile photo. Many of the steps contain links to content created by LinkedIn's profile development team or other experts. This is where detailed step-by-step instructions can be accessed. Leap into Work curates the most relevant content. It does not attempt to replicate it. These links can be easily updated as more or better content becomes available. Building a profile uses some terminology that may be difficult to understand, such as the difference between soft skills and hard skills. So we provide examples to guide the user. LinkedIn has many features for which the benefits might be less obvious when you're starting to build a profile. The site assures the user that these finishing touches can be added at the end of the process or skipped entirely. Like the rest of the site, the step provides a short explanation of the whys and hows, and then a direct path to any required steps. For users who want more detail, we offer an illustrated guidebook, which contains detailed instructions for each of the steps. In the future, clients will have an option to download a narrated version of the guidebook, which talks them through the process. Leap into Work also provides guidance on creating a video resume, which can be a great option for people who want to control the first impression they make. They can be especially helpful for job seekers in visual or creative fields and can be an excellent way to showcase one's personality. We feature two types on the site. The examples that appear here are drafts created by our project testers. One serves as a video cover letter targeted to a particular job and a hiring manager. The final version would include information about the specific job and a link to the profile. This video was created using a simple phone camera. The second is a general resume connected to the person's LinkedIn account through YouTube. This particular video was created in iMovie and took multiple hours to create. In the future, the site will also offer information about tools and software for creating the video resume. Our next steps include adding the narrated version of the guidebook and developing the coaching section of Leap into Work, which will provide direct connections to volunteers with experience helping neurodivergent job seekers present their qualifications. We recognize that the user interface is absolutely critical in making the site accessible and useful to different users, with different expectations about the level of detail, visuals, and the overall tone. We hope to work with an expert in human-computer interaction to ensure that the design is a great fit with what our audience needs. You are welcome to learn more and provide feedback at leapinto.work.
All right. We did some prototype testing of these materials a few weeks ago with some neurodivergent adults who were either current job seekers or close to finishing college. None of them had LinkedIn profiles before that. We prepared them by suggesting they set aside about 2 hours for this experience and consider having a support person available. We directed them to materials, had them create the profile, and debriefed them when they were done. And the findings were rather interesting. The time it took for them to get through it was between 1 hour and 10 minutes to 2 hours and 30 minutes. Our testers represented quite a range of independence. Our longest tester was completely independent, while our middle time tester at about 1 hour and 50 minutes frequently needed his support person. We knew we were on the right track with this idea when every tester and every parent expressed relief and gratitude that the neurodivergent adult finally had a profile up and running. Turns out, parents had been nagging their kids to get on LinkedIn for years. The things I liked most about the tool was that it was a clear set of steps. It had lots of examples and suggested strategies to help them overcome problems when they got stuck.
Sorry, Chris, can you click swap displays?
We're seeing it in presenter view on our end.
Shoshana, can you click on the
Left upper corner, the third button. Thank you.
We're on the last slide, but that's okay. As expected, the most challenging parts were the more open-end activities, particularly creating the summaries. We asked their interest in having a coach for preparing or reviewing or using their profile, and there was some definite interest there. Only one of our testers was interested right now in creating a video resume, but the others were still in college and weren't quite ready to think about that yet. I'm going to turn it now over to Stephanie, who's going to talk about some alternative delivery methods for this offer.
Thank you, Chris. Despite our early successes in prototype testing, we already know that this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. The content can be largely the same, but the way the information is presented will likely need to be adjusted to reflect different learning styles and technology preferences. Service providers like my organization often work with small groups on certain parts of the employment process, like creating a LinkedIn profile or resume. I teach a weekly employment forum and have already began to work with these tools into a workshop style project that includes both peers and professionals working on each step as a group. So as part of our offering, we created a set of task analysis slides that showcase major profile steps and breaks them down in ways that decrease data overwhelm. Here is an example of this task analysis tool that shows how to customize your LinkedIn URL. When using this tool, job seekers will be shown individual tasks to complete each profile step, with each step building on each other until there is a complete profile. Given the prevalence of video instructions, we recognize that many might benefit from video tutorials to assist with step completion. This can be either leveraging LinkedIn videos. Oh, slide please. This can be either leveraging LinkedIn videos or creating new custom video material that targets our specific audience. These brief videos would have professionals or others clearly lay out steps to profile completion in a way that is more appealing to visual learners. Slide please. Many users start at the website homepage. If they want more help, they can open detailed steps. Some will want additional support via a narrated version of the detailed steps. In order to be able to arrive at a design that comes closer to the principles of universal design and to allow for the kind of information customization by segment that we have been discussing, we feel an important next step is to work with information and graphic designers, as well as specialists in technology and human interfaces. We want to be sure that this offer meets the specific needs of the indie audience broadly and offers some level of customization based on personal preference. This concept will be more powerful if we include support from a range of interested constituents. We can imagine several groups we will want to target: employers to review profiles and provide targeted feedback, volunteer shepherds to help through the process and connect them with needed resources, professional organizations like regional centers and DOR, job developers, and possibly autism at work employers. We are pleased to report that we already have a commitment from Hands-On Bay Area to offer volunteer experiences to help job seekers create LinkedIn profiles. Slide. This is a very quick process that has the potential to be high impact. Many can be up and running, participating in the mainstream job market after just a couple of hours. We are proud to have helped 4 people create strong profiles for the first time. We have discovered that this process has several side benefits. It increases exposure to more about the process of attaining employment, including things like online applications and skills tests. Slide, please. It increases communication and engagement with families about jobs. It helps neurodivergent job seekers begin to think about networking and how they will participate in making connections to enhance their job opportunities. And the slide we were talking over was going to be a profile slide that was created. And it was lovely and done very well. And mine is actually better too. And I'm very happy with what this team has come up with. And we think this is a simple idea whose time has come. There is nothing complex about what we are trying to achieve, but the results could be profound for individual job seekers. The opportunity for innovation is there, both in the multiple ways the offer can be configured and how we use the bank of indie experts to enhance its effectiveness. We believe this to be feasible, not requiring extensive resources to get to launch, and potentially benefiting from all kinds of assistance through things like the paid internship program from Regional Center and possibly Stanford Student Resources. We're also very excited about the growth potential of this kind of an offer. We see the potential for a what's next section that could offer related job seeking services or even direct access to employers looking to hire neurodivergent employees. Now to Jareen for potential partnerships.
Slide, please. Here you see some of the companies we would like to partner with in the future. Topping the list, of course, is LinkedIn. Now, on a personal note, I am absolutely thrilled to share with you that I have been working directly with LinkedIn. Later this month, I, along with LinkedIn staff, will be conducting a special training for a nonprofit currently serving 20 neurodivergent job seekers. 20 LinkedIn employees have generously volunteered their time to coach each job seeker one-to-one for 40 minutes to review and improve their profile. I hope that this pilot training will result in more collaborations in the future. If you haven't created a LinkedIn profile or need to improve yours, what better time than now? Please explore our website, leapinto.work, where you will find 2 prototype options for creating a LinkedIn profile, one under the 12-step tab and one under the guidebook tab. We polled 12 neurodivergent college graduates and 3 neurotypical college graduates, and they preferred the guidebook. We invite you to explore both options and decide which one suits your needs. We welcome your feedback. Our team would like to thank Dr. Fung and his staff for providing this amazing platform for us to share our innovative ideas, making it easier for neurodivergent job seekers to advance their career goals. Now for questions.
I think Mark might have some internet problem. So I'm going to check the Q&A. So I'm going to just read it off. Great concept, but some autistic kids are not comfortable speaking before a camera or do not present well on camera. Having to shoot a video may create more of challenge and stress. They may need additional coaching or speech, acting, and presentation to be able to shoot a good video resume. I hope you will include this step in your whole package. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
Dr. Fung,
much.
it absolutely is included in our how-to video. Traditionally, videos have already been used for those that are more impacted and can only demonstrate their skills and perhaps not even articulate them. So we envision working with speech pathologists, other professionals. I'm a professional in the field with over 20 years experience, that we can work with them one-to-one before they're ready to create their video. I spoke to a gentleman that oversees HR for over 400,000 employees. And he said that anyone that submits a video goes to the top of his list for opening their resume.
Thank you, Shireen.
Sure.
What nonprofit are you partnering with that has your candidates?
Unfortunately, at this time, that's confidential, but I'd be happy to share that with you when I'm given permission and authorized to do so.
This is a attendee, so I think you can continue keeping it confidential at this point. Do you plan to add more neurodiverse specific or neurodivergent specific content and advice? Great idea, but doesn't go far enough to support unique barriers and concerns of young neurodivergent approaching LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Of course, this is just a concept and it's very, very much the beginning of the concept. And so we're looking to get feedback from many different constituents and stakeholder groups in order to build out a website that will be functional for many individuals. And so particularly the feedback form, we're looking for you to give us any tips that you would like to see moving forward. And we very much look forward to that information from all of you. So we truly do need the entire team working together to make this successful. So thanks so much.
Okay.
And if anybody has individual questions regarding their own unique situation, I'm happy to personally assist you with that. If you're having any specific difficulties, please feel free to reach out to me.
At Spectrum Fusion Media, we are creating showcase platforms and we are making introductory videos. Our adults on the spectrum are creating the videos for each other. Is there a way to follow up with you?
Would like to take that.
I'm sorry, I don't believe I heard the question. Could you repeat the
Was
question?
this for a video?
I think just
for a video
about following
resume?
up. So following up with you. So you have the livin.work website and
Right.
there's contact information there, right?
Absolutely. And I'll type the website into the chat so that people have it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we have the last question. What about individuals with limited or no higher educational and work experience?
Oh, I can speak to that.
Go ahead.
I can speak to that. I think LinkedIn is valuable for individuals regardless of kind of work experience because there's also positions where people can put internships, people can volunteer experiences. So I think this is an opportunity for people to kind of set their bar high and then reach for that. And so I believe that even if you don't necessarily have what you feel to be relevant experience, you do have soft skills. You have probably done things that you can add to a LinkedIn that would be relevant to a job that you're looking for, particularly if it's entry level.
I would like to chime in here too, that as a professional in the field, what we typically do is try to teach skills 4 years out before people are actually going to need to exhibit them. So start acquisition now. So even in middle school, high school, it's not too early to actually start your LinkedIn profile with whatever information you have related to your education. Fill out as much as you can. And then as job opportunities, internships arise, you'll be prepared and can just, go forward and edit what you currently have and update it. So it's a dynamic document and we encourage you all to get started if you haven't already.
This is really excellent work, and I'd like to congratulate all of you in Group 10, as well as Group 5 and Group 6. You have done really tremendous work, very innovative, and within only 2 months, and in a multi-stakeholder group, which is quite a bit of a venture. And I think this is a very good experience for everyone. So with this, we're going to end this session, and we're going to come back at 1 o'clock for our mental wellness in the workplace and beyond session. So please take your lunch, take a break, and we'll see you soon.